Hello and welcome to the Commander's Quarters Studio Updated. It actually depends on if you've seen the other episode or if that other one came out first. But regardless, Eddie's here!
I'm here. Hello there.
In the jungle, which is that area that I'm calling because it looks like a jungle. And Eddie's definitely not interested in the same room that I am right now.
Got a very strong internet connection.
Very strong internet connection in the jungle. Very good audio quality there from there. Not a lot of, unless I like find like some like, you know, just like animals in the jungle, like, you know,
ooh, that'd be
like
a nice
sounds in the background.
Effect.
Yeah, just like, that would take a lot of extra effort for just a small joke. But yeah, thank you for joining me today, Eddie.
Of course, yeah, happy to be here.
What are we talking about?
Well, it's nearing the end of 2023. We talked about in another episode our favorite budget commanders of the year. There's a lot to choose from.
Make sure you check that episode out if you haven't.
Yeah, so
if that episode is out, if I did this in the correct order, which I should.
And now we're going to go a little bit more general. Just what are the most busted cards of 2023?
Yes.
And that is no small task. There have been, let me check, in 2023, cards that are not reprints, 1,981.
Oh my gosh. I didn't even look at. Thank you for being our statistician on this episode, because I was thinking it was going to be like 1,200. Like, and that still is a ton.
Yeah.
1,900. So, like, literally, like,
more than 100 per month.
I mean, like, year by year, we're printing, like, an absurd percentage of Magic cards, like, are just new cards.
Yeah. Like, back in my day, like, you said a card name, and I probably knew what it was.
Well, you had, like, 400, 500, 600 cards maybe, like, in a year, essentially. Yeah. And now it's like, oh, no, yeah, just whatever.
So, there's a lot, and Mitch and I have done the hard work and looked at them all for you.
And we're
going to tell you the best ones.
Yep. Yeah, we're going to do that. The most busted cards, we're going to have different segments. We're going to talk about no budget restrictions. We're going to have budget restrictions and then some sleepers, too.
Yeah.
So there you go. All right. Eddie, start us off in the no budget Eddie section.
No budget.
I said no budget Eddie section.
Yeah, I am budgetless.
What's your pick?
So for some of these picks, just to set a baseline, like there's some really good cards that are just kind of like, they don't seem very splashy. Like, Stroke of Midnight, great card. Delighted Halfling, great card. Kinkerbloom, great card. Very strong utility cards that are just like incrementally better than what already existed, but they're not like that exciting.
This isn't like what sees the most play. That would be a different kind of. So this is more so, what
are the most
are just
busted? Like
what's
going to
like
impact the game?
Absurd power level. Wizards is like, yeah, we know this is push, but whatever. We're Wizards. Buy packs.
Yeah. So
especially buy packs for the first one, right?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Mitch was very gracious and let me have the first pick since I'm the guest.
Well, I just keep doing this because then I can be like, oh, it's a good pick. Yeah, I would have put that too. Yeah. So I get
so I'm going to do the low-hanging fruit here, like the One Ring. What kind of nonsense is this?
Okay, yeah. You knew Wizards was going to push super hard with this because they're like, we need Lord of the Rings set to be like, to sell like flapjacks. That's not a phrase.
Hotcakes.
Sell like flapjacks.
You know how people rush to go get their pancakes.
Go get those flapjacks.
All right, so the One Ring. Everybody knows this.
Yeah.
4 colorless, legendary artifact. It's indestructible unless you throw it in a volcano. When it enters the battlefield, if you cast it, gain protection from everything until your next turn. The good old Progenitus line.
Yep.
At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose a life for each burden counter on the ring. Tap it, put a burden counter on it, and draw a card for each burden counter on it.
Gross.
Woo.
Also, there was one sold for 2.7 million or whatever.
Yeah. So
allegedly,
hit up Post Malone. He's got the 1 of 1 ring.
There you go.
So anyway, this card. I mean, what more needs to be said? It's nonsense. It's one of those cards that, like, there's some cards like my next pick that really excel when you're at a high power pod.
Yes.
The One Ring's just good no matter what. Like you're playing in a low power, mid power, high power. Like no matter what kind of deck, it can go in any deck because it's
100%.
colorless. Like it's just good.
Well, and it literally did not need like certain text on this. Like it did not need the whole like you gain protection for everything until the next turn. It didn't, to still be a great card. It did not need that.
Nope.
It could have just been a great source of card advantage that is indestructible. But now it's like, oh no, by the way, also just take that next turn off. You're fine. Don't worry about anything.
Yeah, that'll never be a problem. Like you won't put this in a blue or something deck where you can bounce it and play it again. Like it's fine.
Yes. It's like, but we put a cast restriction on, so it's fine. Yeah, if they didn't do that, just like, oh, blink.
Yeah.
Brago, you can never touch me.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So yeah, One Ring. It's a busted card.
It is.
The next one, I would say, is more busted at a high power table,
Yep.
but it's still good no matter what.
Yep.
Orcish Bowmasters.
Oh, goodness, yeah.
It's tearing up other formats. It's really good in Commander.
Yep.
If you watch any EDH content, it's all over the place.
Yeah.
It was in contention, like even the rules committee brought it up as like a potential ban target. They haven't.
They was like kind of like
keeping
even
an
gonna
eye
be like
on
a
it.
pre-ban, not a pre-ban, but like they
Yeah,
were talking
it's
about
on their
before.
watch list.
They're like, oh, they like we know this is on the watch list to start. So yeah.
Yeah. So Orcish Bowmasters, 1 and a black, 1/1 with flash, archer when it enters the battlefield, and whenever an opponent draws a card except for the first one they draw in each of their draw steps, deals 1 damage to any target, then amass Orcs 1. Another ludicrous card. Like it's just got to be here on the list as the most busted card.
Well, and again, it was designed in a way that I don't think necessarily makes sense because, like, if the thought is let's punish that player for drawing a bunch of cards, why isn't it like that player takes a damage for each of those cards that they drew instead of like, no, just assign
Any
this
target.
damage wherever you want. Do you want to take out those creatures? Take out those creatures. Do you want to take out another player because this player wields? Sure, do that.
Yeah, these Bowmasters are a very good shot. They can decide where they want
What
to
does
shoot.
you wheel? Yeah, anything with wheels.
And it has flash, so of course
Yeah.
you can do it in response to someone drawing a bunch of cards because it needed that. And I mean, like, I appreciate the thrust of like why they built it. They wanted to punish greedy players that are trying to draw too many cards.
built
Those
it in-
Simic players are just nonsense.
Yeah, they built it in a way that again is just like too applicable.
It's applicable.
It's kind of what they do just to
anytime.
like to push things further and to sell things more. It's just like instead of just doing like, hey, this is how we're gonna solve this. Like again, like smothering type, right? Okay, we're gonna solve white not having any ramp. Okay, then why does it cost 3 and a white instead of like white, and then okay, there you solved it for mono white. You didn't solve it for everyone, so it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
I'll get off my soapbox on smothering type.
Yeah.
For now.
For now, we'll be back. I'm sure.
We'll be back like later in the episode.
All right, so that we've got the 2 low-hanging picks out of the way. Like,
Yep.
they just needed to be here.
Yep.
Now we can move on to some more interesting
right.
ones. So this is a card that just recently was released.
Recently broke everything. So
Recently broke everything, and I kind of love it, but I'm also like kind of bummed. It almost seems like an auto include in some decks.
Yes,
now.
they made
You've
it.
got the budget.
They made it too broad.
Roaming Throne.
Yep.
For a 4/4 artifact creature golem. Ward 2. When it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. It is that type in addition to its other types.
Yep.
If a triggered ability of another creature you control of the chosen type triggers, it triggers an additional time. It protects itself.
Yeah, didn't really need that.
Gonna go in any tribal deck basically ever.
Yeah, literally. That's kind of like if they just want it to be that, it's still incredibly powerful.
It's still incredibly powerful. I had talked about with some of our other playgroup, like, I looked at the top 10 commanders on EDH rec of all time, and like, if you just look at the top 10 commanders, all of them, not all of them, but like, there's at least 10 different like triggered abilities amongst them. Like, triggered abilities are everywhere.
Even like, just like Urge. I mean, I guess Ur Dragon's tribal.
Even with Ur Dragon, it has one itself.
Yeah.
Like
but the deck's not necessarily built around it, but still.
No,
like,
but you still get great things.
Yeah.
You know, there's Edric. You know, vampires. There's so many things, and even if you're not in a kindred or a tribal deck.
Yeah.
If your commander by itself
has
a
ETB,
triggered ability,
or any kind of triggered ability,
probably want to think about it. Like one that I have an Unesh deck.
Yeah.
Unesh is a Sphinx with an ETB.
I forgot about Unesh.
And is also got a bunch of other Sphinxes in it. Like, I need this in my deck now.
Absolutely.
And it's I can't even be mad about it because the art is so cool. It just has very Legend of Zelda vibes, which I love.
It actually reminds me more of like Wild Wild West for some reason,
Oh, really?
Yeah. Just the really bad movie. Sorry for anyone. I mean, you're allowed to like Wild Wild West, but I want to point out again, I think I pointed out in the episode where I talked about this card, Will Smith actually turned down The Matrix for Wild Wild West. So just keep that in mind. A little fun fact for you.
Yeah, not
Anyways,
necessarily
terrible
a
giant
good
spider
idea,
thingy.
It's so good. And I'm a little worried that it's just going to be... I get a little concerned whenever there's a kind of a staple effect, especially when it's colorless.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here, let me fix this for the card. Ready? First up, take off the ward 2. Not necessary. Just ever since they invented ward, they're like, we solved hexproof. Everything gets ward. Number 2, all you need essentially, if triggered ability of another creature controlled trigger, chosen type, triggers over time, if you control 3 or more creatures of that chosen type. That would at least make it so that it has to be tribal specific pretty much for the most part. Maybe 5 more creatures, whatever it is. There's a threshold to actually hit that instead of it just being, oh yeah, does your creature have a triggered ability that you really want to use and abuse? Cool, you just can. So like, make it more specific. But these days they like making things so applicable that not any deck can use it, but so many decks can use it that it becomes just a very, very big chase card.
Yeah,
I think that takes the fun out of it.
Yeah, and there's so many. There's a lot of cards similar to this. There's Panharmonicon. There's
but this applies to like not just ETBs.
Broadly.
It applies to
any triggered ability.
Any kind of triggered ability. Combat damage triggers. Death
triggered
triggers.
abilities are abilities that say when, whenever, or at.
Yeah.
And me being the Scryfall nerd, I am.
You are a Scryfall nerd.
And
we all love you for it.
It's just absurd how many of these.
It's crazy. That's what like Commander is. It's just triggered abilities, activated abilities. That's like what Commanders
That's the
typically
fundamental
are.
aspect of the game.
Then you build around that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there you go. Yeah,
Yep.
that's it. It's an absurd card.
Love it.
Okay, next
but
one.
Also scared of it. All right, so this one.
We're just going like, okay, this set has 2. This set has 2.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. So this one was one that I added last because I wasn't so sure on it, but I think I like. So my next pick is the Skullspore Nexus.
Yep.
It's 6 green for a legendary artifact.
But you're never gonna pay that.
Never. It costs X less to cast, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control, and whenever one or more non-token creatures you control die, create a giant fungus dinosaur equal to the total power of those creatures. And it also has an activated ability for 2 and a tap double target creature's power until end of turn.
Yep.
Whew. All right, so the reason I picked this card is because as a Timmy player is someone who likes playing big, splashy, giant creatures and just going into the combat stuff. Like, that's their thing. I grew up on, like, Xenagos, and, you know, I've got a Helana and Elena deck, you know, just, I'm going to put a big board here, and it's your problem now. And unfortunately, people have answers sometimes.
Yeah.
And so they wipe the board.
That's so mean of them to actually wrath the board.
I know. It's very inconsiderate. And so Skullspore Nexus basically says, okay, you can wrath my board.
You can't wrath the board.
Now you killed my, 20 power worth of creatures, so I'm going to make a 20/20.
No, you're gone.
Next turn, I'm going to double it and hit you for 40.
Yeah. This is literally the person to your right cannot wrath the board or they are gone.
So it solves a problem
Yep.
that these decks have. And there's other ways you can solve it. I mean, there's Heroic Intervention, Instant Speed, but this is just a permanent effect that you get to keep on board.
Yeah.
If you're playing that type of a deck, it already enables it to cost green.
Yep.
And it lets you double a creature's power. So even if your board isn't getting wrathed, it still gives you a baseline of like, hey, I'm going to double my Galta. I'm going to double your... It doesn't say creature you control. Like, if someone else is swinging, you can be like,
That's 100%
we
true.
need that thing to swing real hard right now to take out this problem player. Like,
And
it
also,
has
it doesn't
flexibility.
say my least favorite words, activate only as a sorcery. And this is
No,
one that they
of
might
course
have
not.
done because it's already so powerful. So.
Yeah. So I picked Skullspore Nexus because it solves a problem that these decks have, and in a very efficient way.
And
So.
absurdly efficient way. Literally, like, if you wipe my board and I was not in a game-winning position right then, you are gone. I will win the game. I mean, if there's only one player left. But
Yeah.
pretty absurd. Also, yeah, it's got a relevant creature type, fungus.
course.
Dinosaur. But yeah, very relevant creature type too. So again, you just slap this in a dinosaur deck and you're like, cool, I get giant dinosaurs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Great. So my last one is another fairly low-hanging fruit.
Yep.
Moonshaker Cavalry. 5 white 6/6 flying. It made a very big splash when it was first announced because it's
Crater
basically
Hoof
Crater
Cavalry.
Hoof. Yeah, behemoth in
Someone
white.
had a clever name for it. I can't remember.
Yeah, I like that. Yep.
I don't know.
Spirit Knight enters the battlefield. Creatures you control gain flying and get +X until the end of the turn, where X is the number of creatures that you control. Go wide decks like having big finishers.
Yes.
Crater Hoof is the premier version of that, and I think probably still better most of the time.
Probably.
But if you aren't in green, this is a great option for you. And if you are in green, why not both?
You get both.
Yeah.
I mean, and also, I guess a benefit that this one gets outside of green is that this one is in white, which has blink effects too. So if you literally need to say, hey, that's not a cast trigger. This is an enter the battlefield trigger.
True.
I wouldn't take out the other players with enough damage if just with the effect. But if I can double that by blinking ones, then you're all gone.
Yep. So, it's a very good card. It's going to be a staple like for a long time. The Crater Hoof has definitely held his status as that. Some honorary mentions that I just wanted to bring up before we go to Mitch's turn. Wizards has had, I think
I have those in here. Here we go.
You do?
I do. Here we go.
So Wizards has what I consider to be a little bit boring design where they love tacking on the phrase an additional time.
Yep.
Or double or even triple.
Yep.
These are their things.
They know it'll sell.
They know it'll sell.
Yeah.
They know it's powerful.
Yep.
And they are powerful.
Yep.
They're also boring.
Yes. So I think some that you mentioned, I think Elish Norn's the first one.
Elish Norn, she doubles ETBs
and also hoses
eliminates your
bonus ones
ETBs.
too.
Very good card.
Yep.
Very not budget.
Yep.
Like Mondrak, Glory Dominus.
Same set.
Same set.
Same set.
Doubles tokens. Or more recently, we've got the O'Hare Talk, the Deepest
Is that
Foundation.
how you say it?
Yeah, I think that it's an H.
Okay.
So
All right. I kept going back and forth, and I said like I'm sure wrong a million times.
I'm pretty sure it's O'Hare Talk.
Okay. O'Hare Talk. Oh, like the airport in Chicago. O'Hare.
Yeah, O'Hare.
we need some alternative art. It's just O'Hare.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, triple your tokens.
Yep.
City on Fire is back.
Just creature tokens. Just creature tokens.
Just creature tokens.
Wizards did limit that.
Still boring.
I don't disagree.
And
but
very
yes,
strong. Like,
City
it's
on
going
Fire.
into my restack. Like I'm
Yep.
not gonna not play it.
Yeah.
And then the last one from
on
March and
Fire.
the Machine, there's City on Fire. Just another damage tripler. So like, very good cards. I acknowledge that they are busted, but they're just kind of like, eh.
Yeah, I mean, but it's not like any of us play damage triplers. Like a Nyx Bloom Ancient. No one in this room would do that.
No.
But yes, it is, in my opinion, it's getting very repetitive. And also, it's just like, like that's an easy win for Wizards. Let's just do another double this up, triple this up, slap it on it.
At the same point, like, I kind of need them to finish the cycle. So we've got green that double or triples mana. We got white that triples tokens.
Yep.
We need them, and we got the triple damage. So we need the blue
and
the black.
Triple card draw.
Triple card draw. Whenever
Black triple life loss.
Life loss or triple like
Discard.
Discard. No, please not discard. Oh my
It's
gosh.
a 2-mana enchantment. If an opponent would discard a card, they discard 3 cards instead. And just says whenever they would, not like if you force them to. So if they just like cycle a card, they discard 3.
Don't give them ideas. Don't give them ideas. All right.
Wizards print it. You won't.
Yeah, just so you know how they like teamed up before? Like we had Gulta and Maverick and Inganessica. This one would be Turgrid and Shieldred.
Oh, gross. Yeah, that would do it. That would do it. Yep.
Oh god.
Yeah, it was none of the bad guys teamed up, right? It was only the good guys who teamed up.
I guess it depends on your perspective.
Monster's a good guy, I guess.
They're just like a force of nature.
Everyone
sure.
fighting against the Phyrexians, I'm saying, teamed up. There's no Phyrexians that were teaming up.
I don't think so, but
Wizards, what we need Eldrazi and then Phyrexians together teaming up. And we've got like Ulamog and Phyrexian. I was going to say Yawgmoth. Don't know why I forgot about that.
Sure.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go.
And that one forces the discard and they cost 2 mana.
All right, so those are
your picks.
Busted picks.
Those are your picks.
These are probably the most busted because they're
They're definitely so much more budget. So much more busted. Before that, let's take a quick break.
All right.
And we are back. So, how was your water ready?
Oh, delicious.
Good. All right, Elven Course is my first no-budget pick. And, this might sound familiar to some previous cards that we've seen that are pretty popular in Commander. Enchantment for 3 and a green. You may look at the top of your library anytime. You may cast creature spells at the top of your library. Creatures you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color. So this is basically like Cryptolith Rite plus, the creature that comes to my mind is like Garrick's Horde.
Yeah, the one where you can like play creatures.
7/7. But like, there's other one. There's other lower to the ground one, like Vizier of the Menagerie. Is that one? I guess. I think
Vizier of the Menagerie.
Yeah, ones that essentially this is like, hey, okay, you get not only mana advantage, which is massive from just all your creatures with a Cryptolith Rite type effect, a very popular card in Commander, but also on top of that, now you're getting card advantage. And some players out there that might be a bit newer to Commander or Magic just in general might not appreciate just how much card advantage you can gain by getting access to the top of your library. It is absurd. It's like having not
it's
just
like a
one
green bolus of Citadel. Almost.
Yeah, it's like not just having an additional card essentially. It's potentially more and more and more. And if you've got ways to potentially get rid of the top card of your library, like a Scry effect, a Surveil effect, a Mill effect, whatever.
You're in green, so like you can do like Oracle of Moldiah, so you can play any lands that you happen to run into, get those off.
Lovely, gross. But then also like, or any kind of like a draw effect actually even does that, or a shuffle effect, like an Evolving Wilds. You have so many ways to essentially say like, I don't like that card on top. Let's switch it out. Oh, I got another card. That's basically you drew another card, and then you get more creatures in play. And of course, you're in green. You've got access to ways to make a ton of creatures, make a ton of mana. Gross things can happen. Yeah, I definitely think that this card, again, when they print it, it's like, yep, they just like, okay, Cryptolith Rite, players like Cryptolith Rite, let's just shove card advantage on top of that now. Simic players' dreams.
I really like the card. Plus, that first line of text, you may look at the type of card of your library at any time. It enables that joke that every player loves. You look at the card.
Wait. Which I guess it'd have to be a flash creature for like, you know, like, wait. no, it's okay. The results.
We're good.
Yeah.
Results.
But and just actually just knowing what the top card of your library is incredibly valuable, just information in general. So yeah.
No, it's a
Overall,
really strong card. It has a bunch of generically good abilities, and I mean, it's not a legend, so it's going to be in the 99. But all of these effects are like, if you're going to put it in the deck, it's going to be good.
Yep.
Regardless, you don't even need to build around it.
100%. I mean, you have to have creatures, but
that would be a
don't put it in a
that'd be a choice.
Unless you got,
I
should say, it could be a creatureless deck, but you just have all creature token generators. That would work. There we go. So that's my first pick. Second one. Ickermoon Gauntlet. Now, as everyone knows out there, I'm a huge fan of Planeswalkers. They're my favorite thing. I'm sorry for everyone. Everyone, you are welcome to love Planeswalkers. I just inherently do not. It's probably because I started playing Magic when I was younger, when there weren't Planeswalkers. I left Magic for a while, came back, and all of a sudden there's Planeswalkers, and I'm like, I don't like these. There's too much text on them. I have to remember too many things. And players play in an annoying fashion sometimes when they play with Planeswalkers, where it's like, okay, I'm going to play a Planeswalker. I wipe the board. Oh, you're trying to get creatures out? I wipe the board again. Anyways, that is a side point.
Soapbox, yeah.
Soapbox again. Let's talk about, that one card that makes all the treasures again. My brain just blanked right there.
That makes all the treasures? Oh.
Smothering Tithe. I don't know why. My brain just literally went,
Yeah?
I was just joking. Okay, so Ickermoon Gauntlet, all right? Artifact for 3 mana, 2 and a blue. Planeswalkers you control have 0 proliferate and -12 take an extra turn for this one. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, choose a counter on target permanent, put additional counter of that kind on that permanent. They did not need that -12 take an extra turn for this one. They did not need it. This card already would have seen a ton of play because giving all your Planeswalkers 0 proliferate is very, 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 very good because Planeswalkers like having loyalty counters on them, and when you have an absurd amount of Planeswalkers in play, you just need like 3 or 4 in play to really just probably go infinite with this. I mean, you probably need a little more than that, but it's pretty absurd. Where you're just like, okay, yeah, proliferate, get more and more loyalty counters on all my Planeswalkers, and then also at the same time, hey, build up to a point where I can just take an extra turn and then do it again and then do it again. And of course, that bottom part too, just be able to cast on creature spells, you can just get more counters too.
Yeah, no, I think they built this card perfectly because if you're playing a Planeswalker deck and you've kept it together, it's because you don't respect other people's time. And what's a better way to do that than taking an extra turn?
We're sorry, Super Friends players out there, we are sorry, but there are you have to admit there are annoying times, and I'm annoying too. And if I've ever played Artifact Storm, which I have in the past, that is also annoying to sit through. But Planeswalker turns are absurd. Yeah. I guess the good thing about this is a finisher that your other players at the table can just be like, oh, you have infinite extra and scoop. Game over. Game over. Okay, cool. I guess that, you know what? I should be looking at this as a positive, all right? This is a way to say, the game is over. You have 6 Planeswalkers in play. You will go infinite with this. This is game. We all do not need to sit through and watch you do all your Planeswalker things. Okay? Yep. All right. Moving on. Hopefully off the soapbox. Fairy Mastermind. Okay. Yes. This card is way too good. 2/1 Fairy Rogue with Flash and Flying that costs 1 and a blue. Back in Magic in like 2000, this would have been like, oh yeah, that's it. That's a pretty good card.
That's the text.
All right. Also on top of that, whenever opponent draws their second card each turn, you draw a card. Pay 3 and a blue. Each player draws a card.
Lots of draw card mentions there.
Lots of draw card mentions there. So forcing players to draw cards, that's already just a way that you can just draw cards yourself, obviously, and including, I mean, when you're paying that, you're also drawing a card. But then also when opponents hit that 2 threshold, you're also drawing an extra card each. And if you wheel, then you just get to draw extra cards on top of that too. Yeah. I mean, just getting additional card draw, and players in Commander love drawing cards. They're probably going to draw at least 2 at a time.
Every deck needs card advantage and mana advantage.
Exactly. And yes, there's other way, like Fact or Fiction does not trigger this. Cool. But like most things are just like draw a card. So yeah, someone harmonizes, cool, I just get to draw an extra card for fun. Or if you have ways to force card draw, now you get extra benefits too. And yeah, I mean, it's just a very good card. Again, low to the ground. Again, 2-1 flyer, not bad stats for it just being low to the ground. And maybe in a flyers deck, you just throw that in there and you just get a lot of extra value. But yeah, just at a base level, it's in any kind of wheel deck, any kind of a deck that can take advantage of drawing extra cards. Like if you've got like Teferi's Aegis Insight, those kind of things, draw even more.
Yep.
Do crazy things.
Very good.
Force Fruition. Yeah, that'd be fun.
I love that card.
Card's so cool. I love it. Because when you like, it's one of those cards.
It's a good thing. It's not a good thing anymore.
No, yeah. It's literally like when I was a kid, like the fetch lands, I was like, why are these goods? I don't want to lose life. I'll just put a plains in there instead. Like, why would I do that?
Why would I give my opponent 7 cards?
Exactly, yeah. Like why would I do that? Why would I give players 7 cards every time they cast spell? And it's like, oh no, you run out of your deck and absurdly quickly.
It goes quick. Yep.
Even in Commander, you run out very quickly. All right, moving on. Spiteful Banditry. When this card was spoiled, I saw players complaining that this ability triggers only once each turn. We'll get to that. Okay. Enchantment for X red. Enters the battlefield at X damage to each creature. Whenever one or more creatures your opponents control die, create a treasure token. This ability triggers only once each turn. It definitely needed that. I am typically not a fan of 2 things. I think I've already talked about one. Activate only as a sorcery. Also, this ability triggers only once each turn. I think wizards typically are fun suckers, and they don't like Johnny players doing Johnny things. This is not a Johnny thing, number one. Number two, that would be absurd if this was like, no, triggers as many times or whatever. It's just literally, or if they took off the one or more too, it'd just be like, yeah, by the way, you wrathed and you also got 40
This would be a ritual.
Mana. Yeah. I mean, it already isn't a ritual, but it is inherently just a wrath, okay, that you can not easily get back, but certain decks can obviously bounce an enchantment back or whatnot, essentially. It is a wrath that could be repeatable, but also you are just going to, throughout the game, just gain mana advantage on your opponents for just creatures dying. Their creatures dying, I should say, not yours. So that obviously is a limitation to it, but still, if their creatures just die, and also doesn't specify like non-token either.
Nope.
So yeah, if you're just playing against a Riskrat Tribal deck, you are going to also just get card advantage from them doing what they want to do.
Yeah, and like,
not card advantage, sorry, made advantage.
I like that this also, you can do X equals 0.
Yep.
You can just play red. Now I have an enchantment that says whenever a creature dies, I get a treasure. Yeah, that's still pretty good.
Yeah. 100%.
If you like your board a lot and you don't want to wrath it, you don't have to.
Exactly.
You get the choice.
That's very true. Or yeah, I mean, it's also an adjustable wrath too, where like if you have big creatures, you take out your opponent's small ones and you stay around. Yep. Okay, that's that. Moving on, the final no budget Mitch card. We've got Up the Beanstalk. This one actually I think is causing problems in other formats. but with this one is surprised with its power level at uncommon. An enchantment for 1 and a green enters the battlefield, and whenever you cast a spell mana value 5 or greater, draw a card. I think it's just because it's so low to the ground and already kind of just cantrips.
You can fit it into your curve.
You can fit it in the curve very easily, and then also, yeah, if you're just playing with a deck that happens to have a good amount of high mana value cards, where you're just like, what's that one Cascade commander? It's like mana value 6 or greater, like you.
Oh, Emoti?
That one. I think that's that. Yeah. Like if you already have a commander that just already wants to do that, or if you're utilizing like Cascade effects, or if you're utilizing now Discovery effects too, and you just hit spell after spell after spell. It doesn't specify like from your hand. It can be from exile too. Yeah, you can just take a lot of advantage out of this, again, for just a tiny little package that, again, really doesn't have a downside to it other than just being a slightly over-costed cantrip, essentially.
Well, right. That's the thing I think that is really, like, pushes it over the edge, is it says, not just whenever you cast a spell draw card, but whenever it enters the battlefield, and that other thing.
That's true as well.
So you just can just play it whenever you have the spare mana, and it replaces itself, and...
Or if you're in an Enchanter-style deck that can potentially just get it back, recast it, like, I mean, not that that's the most important thing, but, like, it did not need, I don't think, that text to start. It didn't need the ETB. They just put that on top of that again. So for like, is this as busted as the other cards list? No, I don't think it's as busted as the other cards that we mentioned so far. But I still think that, again, just for what it is, again, for whatever reason, an uncommon. Wizards does this every now and then. They're like, Tatiova, uncommon. It's like, no, it's not. What are you doing?
Tatiova is a menace.
Tatiova is a mythic. But yes, I think there's 2 Tatiovas now, so I should specify the first one. The one that
not the one that animates land.
Yeah, no, not that one. That was not a menace. So, yes, this one I think is just like one that really stood out to me that like, hey, yeah, there's a reason. When I saw it was uncommon, like, oh, that might be budget. No, not budget, but also because of other formats too. But yeah, regardless,
could be budget one day when it rotates.
We shall see. All right, so those are my picks for non-budget. Let's take a quick break.
All right. Okay. Here we go. We're gonna do some budget picks now.
Oh, I didn't realize you were starting. Then I started looking down, and I was like, "Oh wait, you're starting. Okay, go ahead. You keep going. You keep going. No, you're doing great. You're doing great.
Oh, great.
I think this is your first time like opening up.
Oh yeah. Normally you're the
no, you're doing great. You're doing great.
Oh, thanks,
I like the initiative.
Thanks, bud. Yeah. So budget picks. We've already talked about some purely busted cards that also reflect a purely busted price tag.
Yep.
So these are cards that are still busted.
Oh yeah.
But on the cheap.
Yep. Bust on the cheap. Do you want to upset your friends when you play cards? On the cheap.
Yep.
Do it.
Okay, pick number 1.
Yes.
Mirkwood Bats.
Yeah, I think this and Orcish Bowmasters were mentioned together, I think.
Yeah.
And one is a common.
Yeah, when a common gets the attention of the rules committee as a potential ban target, you got to pay attention a little bit.
Yep.
And I mean, thankfully, like number 1, it hasn't been as big of a menace as some people were worried about yet.
Yep.
And since it's a common, like it's just there's a lot of them available, so it's not hard to get a copy, and it keeps the price down.
I think that the problem isn't this card, right? The problem is another type of card, and if we just eliminated all those cards,
we'd be fine.
Then it would solve the issue.
We should probably read the card. Mirkwood Bats. 3 and a black. 2/3 bat. Flying. Whenever you create or sacrifice a token, each opponent loses a life. There's so many knobs that could have turned in this card to make it reasonable.
Yep.
But first of all, it's when you create and when you sacrifice a token. Could have just been one or the other.
Yep.
And it could have been like target opponent loses a life.
It could have specified creature token.
Creature token. There's so many different like knobs they could have, but
they didn't.
It's just very broad. And like
is this a common again?
So treasures is what we were alluding to earlier.
Yeah. If you didn't realize that treasures are kind of a problem, maybe at your LGS as well.
Yep, treasures. I mean, and you're in black at least, so there's lots of creature token aristocrat strategies. Since it is each opponent, like you create 10 treasures, sack them for mana, do something else. That's just the creating and the sacrificing already.
You already get the mana.
It's 2 damage per treasure token.
Excuse me. That's life loss, Eddie, not
life
damage
loss,
technically, which is
it's
different.
two life loss per opponent.
Yeah, so that's what do you say? 10 treasures? What do you say? It's 20 loss. Yeah, you can already take your opponents out like right then and there.
60 life loss.
Yes, and of course, again, it doesn't specify again, like you said, like creature tokens. So your treasures apply, but also creature tokens do apply too. And there's this little strategy called aristocrats, which likes to make a ton of creatures and sacrifice them. Yeah, creature tokens.
Yeah, there's. It can deal damage very quickly.
Drain life.
Thankfully, it drain life. You could just lose the game. That's one way you could get rid of it. No, I mean it is a creature. It doesn't have ward. We kind of like
they just slap ward and everything.
Like having ward. So I mean, sure, run more removal. That's kind of gonna be the retort and and whatnot. But
sure, someone plays a wrath and then they lose the game because the player had 10 creature tokens in play and they got drained.
Yep. All right. Number 2, I was apparently really high on Lord of the Rings when I put this list together.
Well, again, I think they pushed some things in the set just because they're like they wanted to sell it so then they can say to other companies like, look what we did for this IP. Hey, Marvel, do you want to join?
Yep. And
you can expect these returns and get ready for the Gauntlet thing or whatever. I don't even know.
They got their contract signed.
They got the contract signed.
Rising of the Day.
Rising of the Day. Run that way, my lads.
Exactly.
That way.
2 and a red. Enchantment. Creatures you control have haste because an old guy is yelling at them. Legendary creatures you control get +1/+0. Yeah, there's already effects that get run. I think Fervor, just creatures you control have haste for the same one, but now legendary creatures get pumped.
Yeah.
It's just a strict upgrade pretty much.
And
we like legendary creatures in this format.
Yep, uncommon, budget friendly. It's very, very good. There's just, and whether you're in like a strategy that's like, hey, I want to make sure I can swing right away, that obviously is very impactful, but also like activated abilities that like require a tap. There you go. Activate those right away. Have an absurd time with that.
Yeah, it's really a problem because like my Essica deck loves legends, loves haste. Like it's just tough to find.
You're
cuts.
getting too many cards.
They need
Wizards, please,
I need
for
a break.
Sake, stop printing so many good cards. And he is spending hours upon hours every single day with new cards coming out, just trying to cut.
I'm gonna have to make a second Essica deck.
Eddie hasn't seen his family in weeks. He's just been in the basement, just literally cutting cards for Essica.
Yeah, it's a tough life.
And then I'm like, Eddie, new card just got spoiled.
No, not again.
Not again.
Okay, budget pick number 3. I'm surprised this one is budget, and granted, it's barely budget.
It is in this specific version with the little. I don't even know what symbol. I mean, it's like
a
the magic symbol.
Sort of symbol.
That is for okay.
Normally.
Yeah. Like this version of it is underneath the dollar mark.
Yeah, Hoarding Broodlord, 5 black, so very expensive.
That's very expensive.
7/6 Convoke,
but it does
flying.
have Convoke, so there's a reduction there, basically.
When it enters the battlefield, search your library for a card, exile it face down, and then shuffle. For as long as that card remains exiled, you may play it, and spells that you cast from exile have Convoke.
Just a little bit of text on the bottom of that.
Just a little bit. They needed more words.
They did.
Okay, first of all, it enters the battlefield, doesn't care about being cast, so it's a reanimation target.
That's true.
Very easy
Blank
to
target
do.
as well. Yep.
Blank target.
Yep.
There's lots of ways to accomplish either of those in black.
You could search for a blank spell, which searches for a blank spell, which searches for a blank spell, which searches for... game over right there.
Game over.
Boom. Broke it.
Like you mentioned, it has Convoke, so 8 mana is a lot, but even if you're playing it honestly, not impossible to get it out well ahead of curve.
Absolutely.
Flying 7/6, that's
already good.
A lot.
Yep.
And, any Prosper sort of deck are going to say, like, if you're casting from exile, that all has Convoke now.
I would say for the most part, like, red and black is its home, like because of all of that impulse draw, but also you've got like foretell spells technically are cast from exile too, right? Like just
I mean there's a lot of mechanics where it plays in the exile zone a little bit, so there's just it's gonna be a good card for a long time, I think. And there's really no downsides to it.
Absolutely.
And it's somehow still budget, which I'm kind of
barely
surprised
but after this episode maybe not. Moving on.
This is one of my favorite cards in recent times. 2 blue instant. It's called Sea Double. This spell can't be copied. Choose one. If an opponent has 8 or more cards in a graveyard, you may choose both. Copy target spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. Create a token that's a copy of target creature.
Yeah.
Number 1, It's a 4-player game, so it's likely that by about the midpoint of the game, someone's going to have 8 cards in their graveyard just through casting spells, graveyard deck, whatever.
I mean, if you play this on curve, probably not, unless you're playing against Alex Hogak deck. Then yes, you will definitely have it.
Yeah, that's fair. I think it actually probably needs, this spell can't be copied.
Yes.
Text, otherwise you would definitely find some infinite loops very, very quickly with it. But I think one thing people gloss over when they look at this card is it just says copy target spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. And if you read the italic reminder text, you might catch this, but it says a copy of a permanent spell becomes a token. You can copy, number one, not just your spells.
Any spell.
Any spell. So opponent plays Avacyn. Cool. I have an Avacyn token.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
And then
we're talking about the good Avacyn.
Well, they're all pretty good. But there's one that stands above the rest.
There's one.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
Plus, there's just so many decks that love copying their own things, like clone decks, et cetera, et cetera. Most of the time, if you play a card, you might want another one. So if you are late in the game and you're about to play bomb, why not 2 of them? You can hold priority and cast this and get 2 of your thing.
Absolutely.
Really, there's just a lot of upside. And if you're playing a deck that either likes tokens, likes clones, is going to be playing a control shell where you're holding mana up anyway, and you're not wasting your turn by not spending 4 mana as you wait to see if an opponent plays something that you can yoink. It's just a very flexible card. It's very fun.
Yes.
So it's
big splashy plays.
Splashy plays are gonna
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Great pick.
Last pick for me for budget. It's called Forge Anew. Also borderline budget, depends on the day.
I guess when you put the list together, it was.
Forge Anew, 2 and a white. It's an enchantment. Whenever it enters the battlefield, return target equipment card from your graveyard to the battlefield. As long as it's your turn, you may activate equip abilities anytime you could cast an instant.
That's huge.
And you may pay 0 rather than paying the equip cost of the first equip ability you activate during each of your turns.
I'm glad they put the each of your turns on that one.
Yeah. So, this just does 3 things that all equipment decks really like. So Voltron, equipment, and it's
reanimation.
Reanimation. There's just there's not too many of these effects. All of these effects kind of exist, but on just different cards. So having them all in one nice package. A lot of times, if you're playing Voltron or playing an equipment deck, if you play out a very scary equipment, it's gonna get the attention to the table and it might get removed. And now you can just get that back if you need to. But even if you don't use that ETB, both of the other things are already very good.
You already pay 3 mana for an enchantment that does that. So
So I think this just fits neatly into most equipment decks. It's not super overpowered, but it's just a very efficient use of your slot. For decks that like that.
Again, the reason certain things you can't equip it instant speed is because if you had something an opponent's gonna target my commander, I move my lightning greaves over to my commander now,
instant speed.
So just being able to say my things basically have shroud or hexproof is really, really good.
And you can do it after blockers are declared. So you can kind of keep that element
I didn't even think about that.
Element of surprise, where your damage is really
you block this thing, move everything over here.
Now this creature that you didn't think had first strike, now it has first strike. It really kind of strikes the fear into your opponents.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just a neat card.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mitch, what do you got? You're the budget king.
Let's take a quick break because I need a water real quick. So
all right.
1 second. And we're back, and that water was delicious. So, my first pick is Ring Sight. This card is absurd. Again, we talked about how Lord of the Rings had some push things. This is pretty pushed. Sorcery for 1 in Dimir colors. The ring tempts you, search your library for a card that shows a color with a ledger creature control. Reveal, put in your hand, then shuffle. This card was already good. And then I made an episode on it for a quick take, and I actually didn't even mention that the card is even better because the ring tempting you actually can just make whatever creature you have legendary, essentially. So you can just say, okay, do I have a creature in play that has any color of a card that I want for my library? Cool. I go tutor for that for 3 mana.
In budget, that's pretty unheard
in budget. Even without that, even without the ring tempting you, this still would have been very good because most commanders in their color identity have their colors typically in their cast, essentially. So you could go get whatever color or whatever card out of your deck that you need, essentially, that isn't not an artifact, but a colorless card. This is basically a 3 mana tutor, go get whatever you want most of the time. There is a requirement that you basically need a creature in play, right? But other than that,
I think it's the biggest downside is it's in Dimir. So you have to be in those colors, but if you're in Dimir or Dimir Plus,
this is, most of the time just strictly better than Diabolic Tutor, which sees an absurd amount of play. So yeah, cool. It's a very, very, very good card. Moving on, I'm kind of cheating with these because I think you picked non-commanders when we were talking about commanders, but I have to point out certain things, and Shalai Halar is just gross. Just, again, one of those cards that they could have fixed in so many ways to not make it gross, but they're like, let's just see what happens.
Yeah, what could go wrong?
3/3 Angel Elf with Flying and Vigilance for 1 in Naya colors. Whenever 1 or more +1 counters are put on a creature control, Shalai Halar deals that much damage to target opponent. Okay, this goes infinite with way too many things.
I find it hilarious that this is a card that was made to show 2 characters teaming up to fight against the Phyrexians, and it is a 2-card combo with all will be one.
It's hilarious. It is absolutely hilarious.
So thematically dissonant.
Literally, just the most ridiculous thing ever. I mean, this is absurd with so many things. Again, there's so many ways to go infinite with it. Even if you're not going infinite with it, if you have, just say, like, 6 creatures in play, and you play a simple card, or you've got a card like Loyal Guardian in play that just puts a counter on all of them, cool. All of a sudden, that's an extra 6 damage. You proliferate, you get more. Absolutely absurd. And yeah, throw lifelink on this. I was gonna say toxic, but no, throw
infect.
Throw infect on it. Yeah, there's just crazy things that you can do with this, and it's just, if there's a player playing this, I assume they've got a combo piece, and
it's literally so good that I have a Helena and Elena +1/+1 counter stack. I saw this card and I'm like, I probably should change my deck to Shalai Halar, but I'm not going to because it is so good that it will get targeted and removed every time.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you will get a giant
so
target on your back.
That it is a problem.
Yeah, exactly. It has earned its target. Speaking of which, in my opinion also, so has Rowan Sign of War. We actually, no spoilers, but we may have talked about this on another episode.
We did, yeah.
No, we may have.
It's
spoilers.
We may have talked about all of these on another show.
No, we didn't. Just one of them, right?
Now you gave it away.
Oh, no. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, anyways. Rowan Sign of War. 4 Demon Wizard for 1 in Rakdos colors. Menace, tap, or you called it Menace, I think, right?
Oh, yeah.
Menace. Tap spells you cast this turn that are black and are red cost X less to cast for X the amount of life you lost this turn. Activate only as a sorcery. Okay, so this one is absurd because there are certain life choosing effects. That's not the right word. Like life setting. Yeah.
Yep.
So like a Wall of Blood or Mischievous Poltergeist, essentially like pay 1 life and you can just get this effect and you can keep doing it as many times as you want. And so with this, it's like, oh, okay, just if you have 40 life in Commander, I'll pay 30 life. All of a sudden I tap this once and all my black and red spells cost 30 less to cast. That is insane. On top of that, yeah, if you're playing this as Commander, you also have access to threatened effects, which can untap it very simply and very easily. Probably for just a single red mana, and then you just do it again, and all of a sudden your spells cost 60 less, and you got plenty of ways to win from there. So it's an absurdly broken budget card, and it's crazy that's only 92 cents. So. Okay, moving on. This one is just hilarious. The fact that they printed this, I don't understand, because it's just like, I mean, as a Johnny, not a Johnny the Planeswalker, a Johnny player who just likes kind of janky combination things. A 2/4 Phyrexian Vidalcan for 3 mana. Okay, not inherently just weird, or not inherently Johnny.
This is one of those cards that like they had to shrink the font.
Yeah. It's so funny when they do that. Yeah, just like, oh gosh, so tiny. Other blue creatures you control have, when this creature becomes tapped, draw a card, then discard a card. Okay. So with that, and giving this as a blanket thing to all creatures, yeah, there are creatures out there that can just untap themselves. Like a Phaedo Alchemist can just tap. It doesn't say another target creature. It can just literally tap to untap itself, to tap to untap itself, to tap to untap itself, to tap to untap itself.
It seems infinite to me.
It seems infinite. And yeah, you can be like, well, you don't just win from that. Well, yeah, you do if you've got like Lab Maniac or Thassa's Oracle, or which you're basically getting to go through your entire deck to get the exact card that you need to win. And also, yeah, there's like Psychosis Crawler out there, which like drains your opponents whenever you draw a card. There's all effects that you can, take advantage of when you're discarding cards. Also, it doesn't even have to be when they can just untap itself. You just need like a Vizier Tumbling Sands and like another creature that can untap something, and you're like, okay, they just untap each other. There's an absurd amount of value for that. But also on top of that, yeah, sure, other artifact creature get +1. And on top of that, you can Phyrexian blue until end of turn target creature you control becomes a blue artifact creature on turn. So you can also set up another creature that when it taps, it does that too. But also on top of that, in a very funny way, you can also, I can't remember the card's name. It's like Soul Exchange. It's like that Soul Conduit, I think. 6 mana artifact, pay 6, tap, exchange life totals with opponent. Hilarious to do that with this, where it's just like, oh, by the way, I've got all these infinite things I could do, but also I can just take my life total down to, if you're an even number 2, if you're an odd number 1,
because of the Phyrexian cost.
Because of the Phyrexian cost, I should have said that, thank you, for 2, and then just say, oh, Eddie, you're at 40, right? Thanks. Now I'm at 40, you're at 1. Goodbye.
Bye.
Plenty of ways to win from there. If you don't win from there, I'm sorry, but yeah, this is the thing.
It's one of those that you accidentally combo off with this with so many things.
Oh yeah, literally, you can just toss in every single creature that can tap to untap something in a deck, and then you just find ways to win from there. I mean, you need a win con, otherwise you just mill yourself and then you're gone. But that could be funny too. Like, how fast can I lose?
Yeah, I mean, that's a challenge.
There you go.
All right.
Final one, and this is just one that I wouldn't say, okay, this is one that is not broken, but it shows kind of like the power creep in Magic, in my opinion.
This is going to be in decks for years.
And it's only 16 cents right now. It's an enchantment. It's uncommon. Fire Inscription, 2 and a red, enters the battlefield, they bring Tempts you. This card did not need that. I mean, it makes sense with the flavor of the card. And whenever you cast instant sorcery spell, it's going to deal 2 damage each opponent. This is Gutter Snipe, but better and on an enchantment, which is harder to deal with. Because most Wraths out there are like Wrath of God that take out creatures. You need target removal specifically, typically, to deal with enchantments. Not all, obviously, there's like Farewell and a lot of things out there, but still, typically, most Wraths are going to be creature-based. So your Gutter Snipe is not as well protected. This is like, no, I'm an enchantment. I'm just going to stick out here. Yeah, go ahead and cast all those spells. Have fun.
Also, you get to try to read out the flavor text whenever you play it.
I am not going to try that. So
no, but I do like this pick a lot because I've tried to build Storm decks before, and I have built Storm decks, and they are quite good. They are strong, but you just sit there, and the turns go on for a long time. And as a player with a conscience, I feel bad for my opponents, and so I appreciate when a new closer, a new finisher comes out, because okay, I have an end game in sight now. Now, if I do this, my opponents will eventually die, and they don't have, and then you can shuffle up, go play the 100%. Next game. So having a nice, compact, efficient win condition in Storm is a good thing.
So this is to Spellslinger Storm as Ichor Moon Gauntlet is to Super Friends, is what we're saying.
Exactly.
So I have turned around on Ichor Moon Gauntlet. Love the card. Thank you for printing something that just ends the game.
Yep.
Which is basically what they should have done is just an artifact. Let me get back to that real quick. Just real quick. Back on the soapbox. It just enters the battlefield. If you've got 6 Planeswalkers, you win. That's basically. I don't know what the number of Planeswalkers is that you just win with, but it's probably less than that. Actually.
Yeah, I mean, if you're taking extra turns, you draw cards, you do the proliferate thing more.
I think it's like 4. I don't know. It's ridiculous. Anyways, okay, quick break, and then to our next segment.
Yeah. All right, we're back. We're gonna go through some sleeper picks of 2023. So cards that we think are awesome, but are, as of this writing, if you go to EDH Rec, they're in 1% or less of eligible decks.
Yep.
So cards that people haven't really adopted too much for whatever reason. Maybe they were just kind of in obscure sets. Maybe, in the, whatever we decided, 2,000 cards that were printed this year.
Yep. Maybe they were printed recently.
Maybe they were printed recently.
I kind of had to cheat on some of mine because you took one.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't, not that I cheated, but...
Okay, anyways. So we've got my sleeper pick. Number 1, Leyline Immersion.
Yep.
I think this one suffered from being an Aftermath, a set that people probably didn't know existed.
No.
It is 3 and a green for an enchantment aura. It says enchant legendary creature. Enchanted creature has ward 2 and the ability to tap to add 5 mana in any combination of colors. Spend this mana only to cast spells, so you can't use it for abilities, basically.
I'm glad they did that, or you'd have the all those untapped auras that you could just
it would go infinite with a ham sandwich. All right, so we've got Leyline Immersion. I like it because it's kind of a ritual in green. Number 1, you're going to have a legendary creature. This is commander. It protects your commander a little bit with a ward 2, and if your commander had come out on a previous turn, it isn't summoning sick, then you can pay 4, get this enchantment out, and it can tap to add 5. You're up 1 mana.
Your commander becomes better Jegantha.
Yeah, and I mean, I run this. I mean, it was such a slam dunk in my Sithis deck. So if you're in an Enchantress or a deck
then you draw 3 cards when you cast it too, because you got your in play.
Yeah, you took a breath, so you get to draw a card. It's just, I think, if I had to give it a weakness, it's an aura. People are a little scared of auras
because you get 2 for 1.
You can get 2 for 1. If they remove your commander in response to casting it, that feels a little bit bad.
Yep.
But if you get it to stick, and if it's allowed to do its thing, and if you're benefiting from any of the other stuff that you can do with it, it's just a good card.
Very good card. I like the pick. I got nothing else to say about it.
Great.
Very good.
What's your first sleeper pick, Mitch?
Going back and forth, and I put these in the wrong order. Let's go. Kite Sail Larcenist. So this one, I'm not going to say it's going to be a problem, but it's going to be annoying is what it's going to be. A 2/3 flying ward 1. There's the ward again. Wizards just ward. We fixed hexproof. Now it goes on everything. For 2 and a blue, human pirate. Enters the battlefield. For each player, she's up to 1 other target artifact creature the player controls. For as long as it remains on the battlefield, those chosen permanents become treasure artifacts with, what artifacts with treasures do, and lose all other abilities. So essentially, hey, again, there's a lot of things that they could have changed on this card where it, like, didn't do as much.
Yep.
But, like, again, they didn't really put restrictions on it. In fact, they made it so open and so broad for you that you get the best of all worlds all the time. Choose up to one other target artifact or creature that player controls for each player. So that includes you. So you don't have to choose one of your own things. So there isn't a downside to you. There's even potential upside if you've got, like, something on the battlefield. You're like, you know what, I need an extra mana, and I don't really care about that creature token I have in play, so now you're a treasure. Cool. You can just, like, upgrade, or, like, upgrading a creature token, upgrading, like, a food token to a treasure. Sorry, food token players out there, but treasures are just better inherently. But also, yeah, this one just says, you know what, hey, all of your most powerful creatures or artifacts out there are now just treasures, and they're useless. So it's probably going to be like, oh, your commanders, which... yeah, you can get your commander back, and it gives them a way to sacrifice it to get it back, but it also can be pretty annoying because, again, this is an ETB, and you're in blue, so you've got ways to blink it. So you can just say, oh, you got your commanders back out after you just sacrifice them. Let me blink this. Now they're treasures again.
What a shame.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, again, it gives you all the upside, none of the downside.
Yeah. Plus human and pirate tribal synergies.
Yeah.
So while you were doing that, I did a quick search. In 2023, there were about 200 cards printed with Ward. That's about a tenth of the total number of printed cards. So like
it's a tenth?
A tenth, which is a lot. And this is true. 10 years ago, 0 cards with Ward. That's a big increase.
That is a massive. One would say that's incalculable.
Yeah.
That is, you can calculate it, just not percentage-wise, because it's from 0, right?
You don't want to divide by 0. Bad things happen.
I don't think that's how that works. Okay, moving on to your number 2 pick.
This one, I actually, just to be completely transparent, I hadn't seen this card until I started looking through. Budget picks for this episode.
I appreciate your transparency, and everyone else does too.
I kind of love it.
Blame Eddie for transparency.
Infernal Sovereign, 4 black for a creature demon, 6/6 flample, flying trample. You skip your draw step.
That sounds bad.
That's a bummer.
Let's stop there.
Yeah. Whenever you play a land or cast a spell, you draw a card and lose a life.
Yep.
This card, you never run out of cards to play. Like,
no.
Every card in the game, and this is true, is a land or a spell.
That makes sense.
So...
wait, what about attractions?
Those don't exist. I don't think you can I honestly don't know how stickers and all that works. It's not
what about
in the
stickers,
game.
Eddie? This is Magic, Eddie. We're talking about stickers.
But so this was in a commander set, so it was only in one deck, and it is a 6-mana demon. So like I get why it's not super popular, but with an effect like this, as long as you have life to pay, you will never run out of things to do.
Yeah. And in black, you're like, I don't care if I lose all my life. Whatever. I've got ways to gain more. I've got ways to flip it with my opponent. Whatever it is.
You just have unlimited card advantage. I mean, granted, like if you draw into too many lands in a row, like sure you might stall out for a little bit, but like every turn you're going to be doing something, getting advantage in some way, shape, or form. So yeah, it's really
unless and hear me out, someone else plays a Narset, then you're in trouble.
Yes, but then you know not to play with that person again.
Exactly. Then you're just like, okay, and then I leave. Yeah, Narset's the one, right? That limits the card draw, right?
Yeah, there's a Narset
that limits, right?
Yeah, it's a card draw.
Planeswalkers. Anyways, all right. I like the pick.
All right.
Moving on.
Yep. Mitch, sleeper pick number 2.
Return the Past. An enchantment for 4 red. As long as it's your turn, each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard has flashback. Its flashback cost is equal to its mana cost. And I don't understand the reference at all because unfortunately I'm not a Doctor Who fan, though I've heard good things about it.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard good things. Also don't know the reference, but I mean, at first when I read this card when it was spoiled, like I was like, oh, that seems overcosted for a sorcery. And then I looked at it again. I'm like, nope.
That's an enchantment.
This is an enchantment.
It just sticks in play.
This gets to hang out. That makes more sense now.
Yeah, and there is a limitation on this. Wizards like, we put a limitation on it. Don't worry. Only during your turn.
Yeah, what's the problem?
What's the problem? What could go wrong? It's fine. It's just Past in Flames for every single one of your turns.
Yeah.
It's just, all of a sudden you're just like, okay, I played a ritual effect. I'll play that again. I'll play this. I'll play that. Absurdly long turns, and your opponents leave the table for 10 minutes. They come back and say, did we lose?
Yeah, it's a Storm Enabler, which, again, going back to Fiery Inscription, the Storm Payoff card, I'm glad that exists.
Yeah, there you go. Just play both of those. Opponents can be like, okay, we lose. All right, there we go. All right. Your final sleeper pick, Eddie.
My final sleeper pick. This is a mythic.
I love this card.
That is under $1, and I get why. I get why it's under $1.
It's very specific.
Right now, it's not very, very good.
Excuse you, I built a deck around this, and I think it's funny.
It is funny, and it's why I picked it. And the art is awesome. Okay, so begin the invasion.
Yep.
X, Wooburg. Sorcery. Search your library for up to X battle cards with different names, put them onto the battlefield, then shuffle. We're in Commander. They're all going to have different names.
Unless you're cheating.
Unless you're cheating. And they just go directly into play. It's not like put them to hand for a bunch of card advantage. They just go right into play.
Yep.
And I think it is understandably not played much right now because demands here in Wooburg.
Yeah.
And like we're just getting a trickle of battle cards.
There are probably
so
like 30
far.
or 40 battles.
There's really not that many, and like they're good, but they're not like game-breakingly good.
I mean,
most
I
of
don't
the
know. The
time.
deck that I built had Yorion in it, and you just keep blinking them infinitely.
I mean, that does sound
each,
awesome.
Well, not infinitely, but each turn it just keeps coming back again and again. And
Right.
again. So quite
So
fun.
you can build a deck around this.
Yes.
In the current times, Mitch has done so because he is Mad Lad.
Check out that episode.
But I think like this is gonna gain value in next year, the year after that. Like as we like double, triple, like they wouldn't have introduced a new card type like Battle unless they really were dedicated to supporting that type going forward.
Yep.
So I think this is one that like it's gonna only get better with time, and it won't take that much time.
Absolutely. I mean, I do like battles. I really like that new card type. I think it's pretty cool. And I really hope there's more and more support throughout the years. And not to dunk on the Planeswalker people one more time, but they are. I could have heard this wrong, but Planeswalkers are going down. There's only one from the last set, and I believe I heard them say there's only going to be one in sets moving forward for a while.
They kind of want to keep it more special.
We keep it more special, which is great, instead of like 80 Planeswalkers per set. Which so there you
Or
go.
Legends.
So I mean, if I have to guess, per year moving forward, we're going to be getting more battles than Planeswalkers.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So that's my sleeper pick number 3.
there you go. I like it. All right, final pick. Here we go. Ripples of Potential. And this has potential to be a sleeper. An instant for 1 and a blue. Proliferate, then choose any number of permanents you control that had a counter put on them this way. Those permanents phase out. I love that they're bringing phasing back because, I mean, it's just a really cool mechanic where phasing, yes, it doesn't take advantage of certain things like, hey, ETBs, LTBs, that kind of stuff. But it does take advantage of, I can keep my tokens in play, like creature tokens that might be getting extra counters on them with this specifically. But again, just for essentially 2 mana, getting a proliferate effect is nice. You wouldn't just pay for that. But also, again, being able to just say, I saved all those things that I just gave an extra counter to, that is huge. And again, it doesn't have to be +1 counters. It could be charge counters on certain things too, like Everflowing Chalice, those kind of things. It has a lot of potential for decks that have any kind of counter synergies in them and any kind of proliferate synergies in them as well. So yeah, just a very good, value spell and also just protection spell all built in one.
Yeah, and I think the format as a whole, back like 5-10 years ago, Indestructible like pretty much did what it said on the face. It kept your creature indestructible. It's hard to remove. And as that was very popular, people started moving into exile effects, Cyclonic Rift types of effects.
Terminus.
To
Terminus.
deal with exile, to deal with indestructible, so that way they could answer things that were indestructible. And now we've kind of entered the next logical step of like, which was
the previous step, because phasing was from a long time ago.
Right? Yeah.
And they're like, that's weird. It's there, but it's not there. What?
Yeah. So phasing, I think, is going to be the next iteration of that, like of board protection of like, now number one, your auras, your equipment don't drop
100%.
off, your counters stay on there.
You can do
the summoning
creature
6
tokens.
stuff. Like it's a very good effect. So
100%. So what you're saying is the next iteration on this is they're gonna be like, someone casts a spell that is a wrath specifically for phased creatures.
Yeah, destroy all phased
creatures.
Or, phased creatures that are phased out don't phase back in.
Oh, I like it. And like can never phase back in. Yeah, I like it. I like it. Or you bring them back just to destroy them.
Yeah. Whenever a creature phases back in, destroy it.
The card is called Watch This.
Yeah. So these are our budget lists, our budget, and our sleeper picks.
Yeah.
I mean, you're welcome to give your 2 cents here, Mitch, but I was pleasantly surprised as I was looking through these near 2,000 cards. Like, Wizard seems to have kind of dialed in on like specific things. Like I saw a lot of proliferate. I saw a lot of like cards that were leaning into a particular strategy rather than being like generically good in every scenario, other than the One Ring. And so I was actually pretty happy. I was expecting to be, like it's so easy to find something to be upset about these days, but like I was actually pretty pleasantly surprised at how many niche strategies that they're trying to like allow people to build a deck that's really like suitable to them and not just going to be in every deck ever.
100%. Yeah, and we can go on about the doublers, the triples, and how they should probably slow down those kind of things. But like there are a lot of good things happening as well. maybe slowing down the absurd amount of cards so players can actually keep track of them and just kind of like, you know, like not have to ask at every single table, like, okay, what does that do again?
Yep.
What's that do again? What's that one do now? Okay, that card exists. I mean, it is fun to kind of find new cards, but also like it's nice for players to actually play with their new cards before a new set then gets spoiled and comes out. So
yeah,
a lot of good things from this year. A lot of maybe not so good things from this year, but yeah. Well, let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on these cards. What cards would you have picked on this episode? And yeah, thank you again, Eddie, for joining from the jungle, from all the way over there in the jungle. Yeah. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.